It's Friday, and Friday means top fives. And today's top five is the spiciest, the juiciest, the spoilerist, the most delicious little bit of data that we can find on the interwebs about Marvel Snap currently. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about the data mines. Now, I'm going to give you my top five that I believe are going to define the meta. When these cards drop, things are going to change. But even better is that I have one card on this list. It made the top five, and I haven't even reviewed it yet. I have a full series going over almost every Datamine card, but this one snuck by me, and it's crazy. Now, a few things to remember here. They're just data mines. You can't get too ahead of yourself. You can't be like, hey, Drewberry, you said this card would do this, and when it came out, it didn't do this. Or, hey, Drewberry, you talked about this card, but it never came out. Well, that's true, because these are data mines, and they may never join the game. We might never see these cards. But it's fun to talk about, so let's talk about these potential future cards. And if you didn't already know, I get all of my information from snap.fan. Go check them out. Awesome resource. It's Top 5 Fridays. Let's get into this Friday's Top 5. Number 5, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. All right, now when I first saw Negasonic, I didn't give her that good of a rating. I gave her 3 stars. For one reason only, and we will get into it in a second. She is a 3-cost 2 power. When any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. Now, when I gave her 3 stars, I thought it just destroyed your opponent's cards. But that's not the only thing this can do. You can play a card at that location to get it destroyed, and then have Negasonic get destroyed so that it discounts death. One card that can destroy 2 things? Yeah, that fits right in with destroy controlled decks. Now, I play a lot of destroy decks, and actually in this video, it's going to be a bit of a theme. It's going to come up a lot here, but they're powerful decks. One of the best decks right now is Death Wave, where you kind of discount Death enough and then play Wave, and then she's really cheap. You play her out, and then you play like Magneto or Arrow at the end, and it works really well. But I think there's actually, I have this deck here, the Wastelands, I just kind of put together, where it's more of a control style, because Negasonic is going to be a huge threat for your opponent. Let's say they're playing the popular Destroyer deck. That's where you only play cards in 2 lanes. You stack one lane with a bunch of ongoing cards with armor, and then you play Destroyer on the single lane. But if you use Negasonic somewhere, then you can't comfortably play Destroyer, right? It'll get destroyed. And then if you lock down another location with, say, like Spider-Man, Professor X, anything like that, well then bam, you got him. So I actually really like the idea of using Negasonic in a control style deck, and then you can still have the death package with all of the destroy mechanics with Death, Killmonger, Carnage, Bucky Barnes. You play Negasonic, then you play Bucky Barnes. Boom. You get Winter Soldier for free, you discount Death by 2. And then even better yet is Nova. You can easily trigger Nova if you never drew that Killmonger, which sometimes can be a bit of a problem. Or Carnage is just too awkward at the location. But I think the best part, and the reason this makes the top 5, is because it can threaten your opponent's plays. They can't really play a card at that location, and if they didn't bring a destroy deck to the table, there's a good shot they don't want any of their cards destroyed, which might single-handedly win that location. They might wait too long until the late game to play a card, and then when they do, it just gets destroyed. Now, there are some counters to this, right? Of course, like Armor, Professor X, stopping Negasonic from destroying herself and anything else played at the location. And also anything that is added to the location. So like a Doombot or a White Tiger or any of those tokens that tend to get thrown over, that wouldn't trigger. The card actually has to be played, right, to actually get destroyed. So there's some times where this might fall a bit flat, but I think if your deck's working with this and it slows down your opponent, I think it's just such a good card when this drops. If it stays the way it is, that would be awesome. Number 4, Hitmonkey. Okay, in terms of excitement, this is probably like number 2 for me. I just really love this card. So Hitmonkey is a 2-cost 0 power on reveal, gain plus 3 power for each other card you played this turn. If anyone knows anything about other card games, this gets bonkers. It's a miracle style of deck where you play basically your whole hand. Usually it involves drawing a bunch of cards, but in this scenario, I think in Marvel Snap, it's a lot more applicable when you play a lot of cards on turn 6 to make a miracle amount of power, which is why I have Miracle Monkey as the deck here. And basically the biggest synergy here is Sarah, right? You play Sarah on turn 5, you discount everything in your hand for that big turn 6 with Hit Monkey only costing 1, and then you play a bunch of other cards to stack that monkey. I think you can easily get this to like 15 power. In fact, I'll double down on that because that's only 5 cards in your hand and you could possibly have 6 plus Hit Monkey. If you had 7 on turn 6, that's maybe stretching it, but then that would get you to 18 power. But to top it all off, there's cards that can actually play other cards like Mysterio. His illusions that he summons are actually played cards, just they trigger Bishop or Angela. So I imagine they would trigger Hit Monkey, which is 3 for 1. Holy smokes, that's 9 power here. So I think Hit Monkey just slots into this deck so nicely. And to top it all off, a really prominent deck in the beta was Negative Sarah. So it involved discounting your hand and then getting out negative somewhat early. And then all the cards that you have in your hand are cheap or flipped and they're easy to play. So this could work in a negative deck where you flip the power, right? He becomes a 0 cost, 2 power, and then all the cards you play that turn, you get plus 3 power. Oh, yeah. And the other thing is it's an on reveal. Yeah, you could stack that with Wong. You could hit Odin on top of this. Like, it just gets out of hand. Maybe Odin's not so great because that might only be plus 3, but it's still more power. I imagine Wong would be absolutely nuts. You get the biggest monkey in town. And let me tell you, I'm ready to make the biggest monkey in town. Hit Monkey needs to come ASAP. It's such a cool card. Number 3. Galactus. Galactus, probably the most advertised card in the game, but it's not even playable in the game yet. You see him everywhere with his amazing animation in all the marketing material that Team Second Dinner tends to use. Really cool animation where he drops the earth and then both locations disappear because Galactus is a 6 cost, 3 power. On reveal, if this is your only card here, destroy all other locations. Now, one thing I have to make very clear because a lot of people are probably going to comment this, but yes, you can get Galactus in the game, but it's going to be from something random like Agent 13 or a location like the Hub. These are going to give you random cards in the game, and technically Galactus is actually in the game. You can even go to your collection, filter by recent and unowned, and you will find him grayed out. But the key here, guys, is he's not collectible. They haven't released him. We can't actually pull him in a chest yet. So until he can be received from a chest, I'm going to put him in my top 5 Datamines because I think he's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. I was down on this card a little bit at the beginning because my thinking was that if I play Galactus, destroy the locations, okay, that's cute, but I'm only going to have 3 power at that one slot, right? I can only play 4 cards at that location, and I'm using up 1 to only have 3 power. That seems weak to me. My opponent now has the opportunity with 4 slots to just outpower me, right? But there's a few things to consider here. One, they probably didn't expect it, so they might not have the deck that is geared towards just getting crazy amount of power at one location, essentially going tall in Marvel Snap, right? 2, the combinations are through the roof. You put Iron Man there with Onslaught and you get the doubling power, and you get into the hundreds probably. An even better yet combination, and I've had this confirmed by multiple sources from comments and also the Berryverse Discord, and that is that the destroy here, the destroying of the other locations, if there's cards at those locations, they get destroyed, and that counts towards death's discount. It's an actual destroy. So yeah, you could like discount death like crazy with Galactus by destroying all the other cards. That'd be insane. So there's definitely a few ways to make Galactus work. I think the most prominent one is the Onslaught combo. That's just always insane. But then even cards like Mojo have extra value, and just that's your deck's plan, right? And the best way to do this is to get him out early, right? How do you play Onslaught and Galactus? They're both 6. Well, you use Wave and you cheat him out. So like anything like that, you could even run Psylocke or Magic or just find a way to get Galactus out. Now, the problem here as well, we have to keep in mind, is that there's going to be things that spawned, like other minions or like squirrels or something like that. You're going to have to find a way to destroy them. That's why we have Killmonger in this deck. I'm also calling it ARAM because all random, all mid. It's not random, but it's all mid or left or right. I don't know. You get the idea. But the reason why Galactus makes it here and why I think he's going to change the meta is because he's going to be a card you're going to have to start to play around. If there is a Galactus deck that is even somewhat in tier 1 or tier 2, you have to be considerate that out of nowhere, the cards that you've been stacking at 2 other locations, if your opponent has an open location, it could be a Galactus turn and you could lose everything. So that's just like a bit of a game changer mentally. But regardless, he's super cool card, and I can't wait for Galactus to join Marvel Snap. Hopefully soon. Number 2, the Living Tribunal. All right, the Tribunal is a 6 cost, 4 power. At the end of the game, split your total power evenly among all locations. It's pretty insane. It's very reminiscent of the location, the Nexus. We actually knew about this card before we knew about the Nexus, and they're kind of similar but somewhat different, right? So they both stack power and then split it up. But the Nexus doesn't really split. It doesn't do the divide. It's going to take all the power you accumulated there and cast it to the other two locations, right? So if I put 30 power at the Nexus, I'm going to have 30 all the way through. Whereas if I had 30 power with the Living Tribunal in play, he's going to divide that up and put it 10 each, which isn't that great. So if you also take that math and you say, okay, well, my opponent's going to on average have, let's say, 25 power at each location. Well, that means we're going to need 75 power just to match that, if we can beat that, which is kind of tough. There are a lot of combinations that can do this. I guarantee in many games you've been able to pull that off, but can you pull it off consistently enough for this to be a good card? And the answer is I think so, because combos are insane in Marvel Snap and people find a way. And this is the kind of card where it doesn't take much. It takes like a 2 or 3 card combination to get you to like 100 power and win every single game frequently. And that's good enough. And we already have things that cheat cards out like Wave, Psylocke, Electro, Magic. These are all energy manipulators that can kind of cheat out the Tribunal early or to get the other stuff out early and play Tribunal at 6. Because this is an end of game effect. It's not an ongoing effect, can't be canceled out. It's not an on reveal where it's just going to happen, then you could get him destroyed. It's just so long as he is in play, this effect will happen. But he's pretty well unstoppable. But is it enough? I don't know. That's why the question mark is there after balance. Is it balance? Is it going to win me the game or is it going to lose me the game? Time will tell. I think people will find a way. But regardless, this will change the meta, because now on turn 6, I have to tally up my opponent's total power and divide by 3 if I even have a thought that they may be running Tribunal in their deck, which on top of all the math you already kind of have to do in Marvel Snap, if I have to do that, I'm going to run out of time and my opponent's just going to straight up win. So for the complication side of things, and then also just being a 6-drop that people are definitely going to want to play with, I think this shakes up the meta in a positive way. I think it's a really fun card. Number 1, Knull. Knull. It's a 6-drop, 0 power card. Ongoing has the combined power of all cards destroyed this game. This is crazy. This is so good for destroy decks. It blows my mind. All right. You destroy a lot of cards when you're playing destroy deck if you're doing it efficiently. And don't get me wrong. This has many counters. Armor, Professor X, Enchantress to stop the ongoing effect. There's a lot that could go wrong, but a lot that can go right. It can get to just insane power totals, especially with Venom, Deadpool, destroying Deadpool repeatedly, stacking all of that power. Killmonger, if your opponent has a bunch of 1-cost things and they all have 2 power, bam, 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 you just get a bunch of power. It even gives Sabretooth some life because he's got 4 power, but he's going to be 0 cost when he gets destroyed once. We can keep getting him out there, keep playing like Carnage, Deathlock, whatever, keep destroying him as many times as possible. That's 4, 8, 12. It's just going to get out of hand. And the other problem I thought about this card when I saw him, I was like, okay, well, that's a lot of power, but that's kind of like APOC, and APOC's not that great for discard, right? You keep stacking, he gets really powerful, but he only comes down on 1 location. So what do? Well, you can play Arnim Zola and then double it, and you actually destroy your Knull, and then it's going to resummon 2 Knulls with double the power that they used to have. It's crazy. They are 6-drops. It might get a little bit awkward with your energy curve, but destroyed decks are not shy from that, with Wave often run in, so you can also have Death, get Death out there. Even if Knull only gets to like 12 power, that's good enough, I think, and he's going to find himself in a lot of destroy decks. So does he shake up the meta a lot, right? He's number 1 here. Well, not shake it up per se, but I think he enters the meta in a really big way. We already see a lot of strong destroy decks that revolve around the meta with the Death Wave, and there's just a lot of good combinations in destroy decks to always kind of bring them to relevance, right? We have the Bucky Barnes Carnage combo, which is a fantastic one. Nova wanting to be destroyed is always great. Killmonger might be one of the better cards in the game right now. So this card has a lot of support already pre-built into the game, which is it's just bonkers. It just blows my mind how cool and how awesome this card is. The art, Knull, so cool. Guys, we have to talk about this now, okay? Another thing about this card. In the most recent Datamine, there was a lot of variants that came into the game. Now, they're not in the game per se to own right now, but they've been data mined there. and they all revolve around nullified variants. It's so cool. I'm gonna have them on the screen right here, but you can see like the thing looking really like nasty looking. You got Iron Man. Look at that Iron Man. Oh my gosh, he's got like this red heart now instead of his energy placement thing, and his teeth are all messed up. It's so good. Even that Black Widow, look how good that Black Widow is. I'm here for it. And here's a thought. Here's a random, I'm gonna put this out there, okay? With all of these variants jumping in, and you got Knull here, who in my opinion is looking like Krampus. So if you don't know what Krampus is, he's in a lot of movies, but he's also a legend from Germany, I believe is where he originated. He's just kind of like this counterpart to Santa Claus, evil version, Lord of the Underworld. And when I saw this variant, that's the first thing I thought of. And what do we have right around the corner? December, Christmas. And I think it'd be super cool if they did a nullified season for Christmas where you have like Knull as the evil, like main theme of it as Krampus. You could do like a collector Santa Claus skin or something like that. Cosmo with like a red nose, so he's like Rudolph or something funny like that. Or like the Grinch dog. Oh man, the potential is there. Now, do I really genuinely think they're gonna do it? No. I'm stretching reality here. I'm dreaming for something that I think would be cool. But we don't know what the next season's going to be, right? That hasn't really been discovered just about yet. So maybe it's out there. Maybe. And then the other one that might come is a BC prehistoric style season. I don't know. These might come in the future. I think regardless, though, Knull will come with his own season, like most of the popular cards do. I'm sure all of these will eventually, but in particular Knull with all of these really cool variants, and it could come really soon. If they're dropping this in the game already, they're probably getting ready a month that they have in mind, and I got my fingers crossed that it's December. All right, and that was the top 5. So I do have some honorable mentions because these cards were really good, probably will shake up the meta. I just wasn't sure where to rank them, but these ones still make the cut. So you have Absorbing Man, 4 cost, 3 power. On reveal, if the last card you played has an on reveal ability, this card copies it, right? So you get to double, and just another way to double some on reveal abilities. I imagine this can get out of hand with Wong, right? You just get all kinds of triggers of on reveal abilities, bunch of tigers, bunch of Ironheart buffs. I don't know, you name it, it'll happen. Zabu is a recently Datamined card that changed. It had a previous version, and this is the new one. So it's a 3 cost, 2 power. Ongoing, your 4 cost cards cost 2 less, minimum 1. That's nuts. Think about all the 4 cost cards in the game. They're only costing 2, and you get to get this down at 3. That means you have 4, 5, and 6, those 3 turns to play a bunch of your cheap 4 cost minions. I think this card will be bonkers, probably broken, probably needs a nerf, probably a change before it's released. But there you go, that's the boo. And then the Black Knight, I wanted to put this one because I think it's so subtle, but it'll have a big change. And yes, it's another destroy card. So it's a 1 cost, 2 power. On reveal, when this is destroyed, draw a card. There's hardly any draw in Marvel Snap right now, and this is such a simple design and so good. Think about, you always want to destroy your Hood or your Nova. These are cheap 1 cost things that you throw in your destroy deck, and you just destroy them to get the trigger, to minimize the cost of death, to maybe get that widescreen buff, but it doesn't really matter that much. Imagine you could thin the deck while discounting your death, right? And maybe buffing your carnage with this fodder of a Black Knight. Get him out there, get him destroyed, and draw a card. That is so good. Then we have Miss Marvel. She's a 3 cost, 4 power. Ongoing, if this is your only card here, adjacent locations have plus 5 power. That's pretty nuts. Plus 5 power across the board. She's essentially 14 power for 3 if left untouched, which is obviously insane. But I think of Namor when I think of this card, and Namor isn't so great. Yes, he only stacks that 1 location, but more often than not, it's kind of easy sort of for your opponent to get other cards at the location for you, or locations will do it themselves. So maybe this gets a little bit awkward, falls a bit flat, but the power output is just nuts. It's also hard to stack cards with her. I really like the idea of playing, let's say, Onslaught with her, but that just wouldn't work out, right? There's maybe a play to play Mystique on another location. Those are your only 2, and then you play Tall, and they're giving plus 10, right, to across the board. But I don't know. It's a good card, but I don't know if it's going to really shake up the meta that much. And then the last one, which probably will shake up the meta quite a bit because it's very unique, and that is Bullseye, a 1 cost, 2 power. On reveal, the next card you draw will be a 2 cost card, if there's any left. Wow, that's nuts. That is what we call in the card game business tutoring out a card. So if I only bring a handful of 2 costs that have big impact on the game, mind you, there's not many right now, but let's say there is, and I really need that card, like maybe armor, well then I play Bullseye and bam, sniped her, got her into my hand, and we're good. It doesn't mean I have to load up my deck with a lot of 2 costs. That's not the point. Just to get that one card that you desperately need to win the game. So I'm thinking like armor, Bucky Barnes even if it's in a destroy deck just to get that power output. Carnage maybe if we just really want Carnage out. There's a lot of potential for this card. Between Bullseye and Black Knight, just the draw synergy here is just too strong in Marvel Snap. There's just not enough draw for a reason. But anyways, guys, that was this week's top 5. I hope you enjoyed. We're going to be doing this every Friday. And then we got new location Tuesday. We got custom cards on Sunday. We got a bit of a schedule forming. It's been a lot of fun. So thank you so much for watching. Snap subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And I will catch you guys next time.